Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guests today are the fine folks from EAT. That is an acronym that you may think that I enjoy, but it's actually End Allergies Together. It is their first time on the show. In the first segment, Kim Hall, one of the co-founders, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sean, and thanks for having us.
EATs, End Allergies Together. We're going to talk about food allergies today, so sort of like a generic definition of really what food allergies are.
Food allergies, there's a real spectrum in terms of what people can be allergic to. And while there's 8 main food allergens, we are finding that people can be allergic to anything. And it's any form of reaction. So it could be a hive all the way through to anaphylactic shock. So there really isn't a simple definition for food allergies. It's just that if your system doesn't necessarily work with that food. And like I said, it can be from mild all the way to life-threatening.
Because there's such a large spectrum of the way it's described and not everybody has the same reaction, does that make it that much more difficult to treat, to diagnose everything that you need to do?
You said it.
Yeah.
I think that is the toughest part about food allergies. Children and adults that have food allergies look fine until they're not. And you could have a mild reaction one time and it can be full-blown anaphylaxis the next time. And that there's nothing in your system or any of the tests or the diagnostics that could show you where that reaction is going to take you. And that is really the scariest part about food allergies. And even scarier is that it's 1 in 12 children right now in our country, and they're predicting 1 in 5 in the year 2020.
Is part of that the foods that we're eating these days, the changes, the not so good things?
I think it could be a lot of things, and in fact, you kind of bring us to why we formed End Allergies Together, or EAT, because we just don't know why it's happening. There are no cures in place right now, and we're just trying to help accelerate the pace of research to understand that better.
Cures, it's really, at this point, the prevention of learn what your body can handle and what can, and just by all means stay away from the stuff that you have a bad reaction to.
You know, that's exactly what it is, and I think that's ultimately why my partner Elise and I formed End Allergies Together. My daughter was 11 months old, and she had scrambled eggs with cheese. She turned blue, and she was in an ambulance.
Wow.
And in full-blown anaphylactic shock. And we found out about a week later she was allergic to a trace amount of dairy, eggs, and nuts.
Wow.
And 11 years ago, and for the past 11 years, we have been told, just don't eat it. And it's very frustrating, but it's also very, very scary and a lifestyle that can send your child into fighting for her life from one trace amount of any one of those allergens.
Now, how old was your daughter when this happened?
She was 11 months old.
Oh, man. So it was very early.
Yes.
But had she eaten any of those things before? Was that the first time?
No, I know,
Okay.
and I gave her a combination of both, not knowing that she was allergic to both. So it was a complete surprise.
Wow. And so what kind of tests are done by the doctor? Obviously, you can see with your own eyes and you can see what the child's reaction is, but what kind of tests do they do?
They can do skin tests and they can do some blood work tests. And some of those are really good predictors, but you can also get false positives in terms of how those results come out. So they're really not, some of the research would say that we aren't where we need to be right now with the diagnostics.
So when this happened, and you got through it, did you a person immediately tries to learn as much as they can? You look around, you do research, you go online. The sort of the genesis of EAT, did it happen because you weren't satisfied with what you saw out there and what was around? Is that how it worked?
Another good question, Sean. So for about 10 years, we've lived this life of avoidance, as you mentioned earlier. And about 2 years ago, we saw a television segment about a child who was desensitized to 5 allergens at one time. And really, it looked like a miracle on television. I couldn't even understand or conceptualize of what that was. Stanford University was conducting research in which they desensitized children to multi-allergens. And so we traveled to Stanford to see Dr. Kari Nadeau and her team to see if they could help Lindsay, because Lindsay is allergic to dairy, egg, peanut, hazelnut, and almond. So out there, Lindsay spent 4 weeks. Every other week we went out, she did food challenges. We started to learn to understand her food allergies more and tried to figure out if she could get into this clinical study for 60 kids. And this clinical study, when we were out there, what we heard was it cost $4.5 million. And I thought, for just 60 kids, when you have a country, 17 million people with food allergies, how are we ever going to get to cure? And what a gap in research there is to find a cure. So when I came back home, I went to a food allergy meeting and I met Elise. And the two of us
We'll meet in the second segment, by the way.
You will. And from there, the two of us were sitting in the back of this meeting, and we were talking about all the different things we could do to fundraise. And all we wanted to do, we started trading note cards that said, "I want a cure, I want a cure." We'd never met before. And we walked out, formed an incredible bond, and ultimately founded End Allergies Together with our families.
Now, so what is it at this point? Is it group meetings? Is it just you releasing information? Is it on social media? What is it exactly?
So we're looking at a few different facets in terms of fundraising. The key point with our key mission with End Allergies Together is to donate 100% of our net proceeds to the researchers seeking a cure. So with that in mind, we took a look at the audience of 17 million, and we want to reach the broader audience using grassroots strategies and social media with the hopes that everyone could donate something small or big, and all of us coming together could make a big difference. So there's the grassroots media and our PR campaign, and thankfully you're covering us, and then also we have an event on November 7th, and what we've heard from parents with food allergies is that they want to hear about the research. You can't go online and Google and figure out where the treatments are and cures, and there's so much information. So we've been told we want to hear from the researchers. And we are bringing 3 leading scientists to Stamford, Connecticut on November 7th to address an audience of 300 parents with food allergies to talk about the research that's currently underway. So we're using it's grassroots, and it's marketing, and it's an event to bring the research to everybody.
Obviously, it's just a work in progress when you're talking about research toward the goal of a cure in some way. But where is it at this point? And you're a parent. You have a vested interest in it because your child reacted badly to a few food items. And you're paying attention to it. Where are they?
I think it's really tough to wrap our heads around exactly where they are right now. With the NIH giving $37 million a year and private funding, we've determined that there's a $450 million gap. And as my partner Elise and I look at it, there are scientists out there doing really incredible things, from the desensitization, but there are others looking at gut bacteria. There are others looking at basic science and causes. And some of this research isn't getting the funding to get to the next clinical phases. And so we are investing our money at the basic science level to help some of these researchers get their research to the next level. So there's some incredible research going on, but these scientists need to focus on their research and not trying to get grants. And we're hoping to accelerate that pace of research.
But is it sort of a catch-22? You need the money to be able to do the research, so you need the grants. And like you said, they spend too much time in that area without being in the lab, right?
And I think you've just hit on the genesis of EAT. That is really what we hope to do, hope to change, and to make a difference.
Are you hopeful?
Very hopeful.
Yeah. You personally don't have it. Do you have food allergies
I
yourself?
don't, but I also, my husband has hay fever.
Okay.
It's been said that there's a genetic component. And I also have a daughter who is 13 years old, and she is so severely allergic to pollen that she can pretty much not function in the month of April and May. And that has manifested itself into a raw fruit and vegetable allergy. And so that, combined with her asthma and exercise and pollen, she's been borderline anaphylaxis as well. So
it's amazing the domino effect you just mentioned, things that you might not necessarily think about. You have to pay attention to the environment, just like you do the food that's in it, don't you?
Absolutely, and it all does combine.
Yeah,
it's a really good point.
I mentioned off the air, I'm lactose intolerant, and I asked if you were in the hospital and they came to you and asked if you had any food allergies. May not technically be a food allergy, but it's something you should mention to them, if they're going to adjust your diet in some way while you're in the hospital, right?
Absolutely, because I don't think that, in terms of lactose intolerant, it could be a defined food allergy or a not defined food allergy, but if you're in the hospital, you're not at your 100% best. So you would want that team taking care of you to understand that something may put your system into disarray and you won't be operating at 100%. So, I think the advice would be to always share at any juncture, whether it's with a friend or a teacher or in an unfortunate situation in a hospital, that you do have a lactose intolerance. It would be
End Allergies Together, is it an organization where you're looking for more people to join? Do you want, I don't know, volunteers? I mean, if you're going to have an event coming up and maybe another one after that, and you want it to grow, right?
Oh, I think at this point we
Are
would
we
love
too
to.
early?
No, not at all. I think part of it is that we're trying to end allergies together, and we would love to have people come into the fold. There are local ways to raise money, which people can reach us at endallergiestogether.com, because we're looking at, again, local or some other helping hand. I mean, we're only going to do this if we build our team.
And you said 100% of the any money raised is going to go for the research, right?
100% of net proceeds will go to the researchers.
All right, we'll end it on that very, very high. You know what? I just want to say, Kim Hall, co-founder of EATS, End Allergies Together. We're happy to have you on at any time. I know you're not getting a lot of publicity, and you want to try to get the word out as much as you can, so you're always welcome on. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean, for having me.
But we're not done. We will take a short break and come back and meet the other co-founder of EATS when we come back. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Stay right there. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. I am here with the folks from EAT. We're not eating anything, but they are from End Allergies Together. And in this segment, it's Elise Bates, the other co-founder. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
So I'll do what I did in the first segment and ask you to give me a sort of a definition of what a food allergy is, maybe along the scientific vein a little bit more, if you can.
Well, at a basic level, a food allergy is when your body sees a protein, so peanut protein or dairy protein or egg protein, as an enemy and starts to attack it. And that can be manifested through hives, through wheezing, air constriction in your lungs, or to the extreme version, anaphylaxis.
You're really getting into the dangerous areas there too, when your body really reacts negatively to it and it almost shuts down. You know, the things that we mention, you know, dairy or eggs or nuts, it always seems like there's certain foods that really hit a lot of people hard. What is it about these certain foods that really give that allergic reaction?
So that's a really good question. Why are peanuts such a big one? It's a legume. Tree nuts are also one, and they're, you know, obviously a different kind of plant. And then you have milk protein, dairy protein, soy, and it's growing. You've got sesame seeds, mustard seeds. There are all kinds of allergens out there now, and we don't know why. The body is picking those to see those as an enemy and attacking them.
Are we becoming more of an allergic society these days, if that's the right terminology?
We are. It's growing to epidemic proportions, where it's now 1 in 12 children diagnosed with food allergies, whereas when we were younger, we barely knew anybody who had food allergies.
So obviously it's like what we talked about in the first segment about it really is all connected with the environment. There's something going on that is causing this.
There is. There's something going on that's triggering it. We don't know what it is, and that's one of the reasons we founded EAT, so that we could help fund researchers to determine what it is. Because if we can understand what the triggers are, we can either stop them or help our body address them more effectively than they are today.
You know, we talked to, you know, from Kim's point of view, as far as the getting together to form EAT. Tell me from your point of view how everything came about.
Well, it's similar. We were sitting next to each other at a meeting, and as you said when we walked in here earlier, you know, thank goodness there's more education and awareness out there about this. And we're very lucky that there have been organizations that have been working really hard for the past decade to get the awareness out about this issue. Unfortunately, there isn't as much money going to research to find answers. And so when Kim and I met at this meeting and we're talking about some education, we just said, look, we just want this to go away. How can we get more money in the hands of researchers to try and solve it? We know that it takes time. We know that it takes a lot of money. But we need to get more into the system. With only $37 million coming from NIH every year in grants, and call it 25 to 30 million in private funding, that's not enough to address the $500 million annual research need every year to really make a difference in food allergies.
And it's amazing, you know, we've been talking this whole time about they know what foods are causing it, they know what your body's reaction is to it, but they just can't put everything together to understand why it's happening and what they can do about it to sort of counter the reaction that the body's getting from it.
That's right, and there are lots of theories on it. I mean, that's the hope and the promise of it, is that there are researchers doing some really interesting things at the gut bacteria level. Are we missing some bacteria that might help boost our stomach and our immune system to help fight and not see those foods as enemies anymore? Is there a genetic component to it that we're passing down or that's getting triggered by one of these environmental triggers? But we just don't know yet. But there are some exciting things in the really early stages, animal studies almost. And to get them to the broader population of 17 million takes time and money, and we want to help accelerate that.
It's interesting because our pets can be allergic to foods too, and sometimes it's a little different than humans, right?
There's actually a very high food allergy rate in pets.
Is that right?
Yep. I mean, there are lots of purebreds especially who have severe food allergies, and you have to change their diets over time.
Yeah, it can get expensive too.
Exactly.
But there are, you see signs with the pets that just like you would with your children or people in general, you can really see if something's going on there.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
One thing that we talked about off the air, which I found interesting, is a way. I guess one way to avoid a food allergy is to not necessarily avoid the food. If you think, especially early on, if you think, oh, I'm going to stay away from that, but then if all of a sudden later on in life or something you decide you want to try it out, your body reacts negatively to it because it hasn't seen this before, so it thinks it might be the enemy, so to speak, right?
Right, and the example is my daughter, who is 11, is extremely allergic. So she's allergic to food, she's got seasonal allergies, she gets eczema, she's allergic to animals, as we talked about. And if we took something out of her diet, there are some theories that taking things out of your diet can help boost your immune system. But for an allergic person, that's really risky. So I would recommend that before people make real changes in their diets, that they talk to an allergist or talk to their doctor so that they're doing it within the right amounts for that person and how that person's immune system is functioning.
We talk about changes in the diet to sort of counter the, allergic reaction. How about like physical activity, boosting your immune system that way? Is there any evidence that helps as well? I mean, that's healthy in general, but so
Right.
you would say that to do no matter what?
Look, I would say anything you can do to be healthy and gain strength is absolutely number one. The trick shot for people with allergies is that if you ingest an allergen and then you go exercise, it will make your allergic reaction worse because it revs up your system and then it spreads throughout your body.
That's
so
ugly.
you don't want to exercise right after, but absolutely, the more you can eat well, sleep, exercise, do the right things to strengthen your body, the better shot you're going to have at outgrowing your allergies or being able to manage it.
I'm glad you added sleep in there too, because that's one of the biggest ways your body heals itself is when you sleep.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
So you discover something that's bad for your child and you do what you can to mitigate the situation. How about when the child isn't around you at school? That's a big thing, or sleeping over a friend's house, or just being out with friends. When they're not around, you're not there. What can you do?
Well, you can arm your child at the age-appropriate level to manage that situation. So in nursery school, you're dropping them off and you speak with the nursery school teachers and you make sure that the school is able to manage her allergies and her situation as effectively as possible. If my child's going out to a friend's house, we talk to the parents and find out where they're going and what they're eating, and the parents are honest and say, yep, I can manage that and I'm comfortable using an EpiPen if I have to. Or they say, you know what, I've never used one, I've got 10 kids and I'm not sure I can manage it, and then maybe my daughter doesn't go. So those are the kinds of decisions that we have to make, and the number one issue is communication. The more we communicate and put on the table the situation, A, the better able we all solve it, and then B, they can deal with it. So that's really the trick.
We were talking in the green room about how some parents kind of avoid having their child be anywhere around those situations in the first place. Maybe not necessarily the best thing to do, but they're so concerned that they just keep them away completely, right?
Right, and you don't want to do that either, because we have to live in the real world and we have to arm our children to be able to manage it. But again, it's at an age-appropriate level. In kindergarten, it's don't share food. And if you can bang that into their heads, and don't share food, don't share food, don't share food, that's a main message. As they get older It's ask questions, read the label when they're able to read the label before they eat something, or if something doesn't have a label, we avoid it. And in my partner's situation, she does a phenomenal job with her daughter of packing her own food. You eat out of this bag and you're good. Don't eat anything else and we're good to go.
Nobody eats out of your bag, you don't eat out of anybody else's.
Exactly right, exactly right.
And that works.
You have your systems that you manage, but we have to get them out into the world.
You know, getting the word out to the world another way, I think in this day and age, is to be on social media too, which I'm sure you are too, because that's where people are, and that's where they're interactive and they can comment and give tips, and it's sort of a support group as well. A website is one thing, but it's static. It's just there with the information. But with social media, they can respond back and participate in these kinds of conversations that we're talking about here.
Exactly right, and we've had some really interesting conversations on Facebook. We've also been able to really catalyze a group on Twitter to follow each other on different, whether it's recipe ideas, whether it's research articles that have come out, whether it's a report that says, here we've linked the brain to our stomach and our immune system. That's the first linkage. So what are those implications for food allergies? And you get people jumping in from all over the world talking about what research could be going on in Australia and how that might inform some of the research that's going on in the United States. So you're right, social media really helps us bring those conversations to a broader audience, but it also helps us further the conversation more productively.
I asked Kim this in the first segment. Do you have hope for the future? Do you see progress being made, moving toward the direction of eventual cures or preventions?
I do, and I don't think we would be doing this if we didn't. And I think that the problem is we need money and we need people. So if we can galvanize and if we can touch the 17 million and the people who love those 17 million to get involved or donate, whether it's $10, $20, every little bit counts. And we've committed to underwriting our administrative expenses so that every donation that people give will go directly to the researchers so that we can really move the needle on this.
Talk about that November event one more time for people.
So November 7th in Stamford, Connecticut, we will be bringing in 3 scientists from around the country to talk about the current state of food allergy research and just what you asked me, what's their hope? What do they see? Because there's nothing like hearing it from the people who are conducting the research and are in the trenches and can talk to us about it, because the media, while it's helpful, doesn't always get the full story. And so by getting them in person and having them tell us where they are, it will really bring us all together to have hope so that we can make a difference.
All right, let's take one more break and come right back. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Stay right there. So that is our show for today. I would like to thank Kim Hall from the first segment and Elise Bates from EAT. They are co-founders of End Allergies Together. What's the website one more time for people to go to?
It's endallergiestogether.com.
And on that, so what's on the site for people to see, by the way?
Well, we've got a research description. We have who we are, who our medical advisors are, who our board of directors are, why we founded the company, ways to get in touch with us, and ways that people can help.
And that November event, that's on there too, encouraging people to go out and be a part of it. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having us.
You can see this show and many others on our YouTube sites. Until next time, I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Take care.